Sometimes a nation must elect a time to meditate and to reflect on where we've been and where we are and how we got to here from there.
Reflection is fine if you do not stick with it, but move on to some facts that are more explicit.
To set the stage and man the show, we've hired Jack and we've hired Joe. They'll get the props and shift the scenes and act those roles within their means.
Before we get too carried away, there are roles they may not be able to play.
In that event, we'll cast around until the right character's been found. We'll find some stars to make it right if we have to search both day and night.
Don't overdo. You may have to fudge it. We operate on a real small budget.
In that event, they'll have to do it alone, unaided, until we're through it. So let's have all systems go. It's all the way with Jack and Joe.
Now that you've started, what have you planned to enlighten us about our land?
We'd like to introduce the past, then move ahead and, traveling fast, proceed to exhibit our maturity and explain on the way our social security.
That's quite a task. Are you up to it? I'd like to see you try to do it.
All right, men, ready, set, let's go. First, we'll need a ship from Jack and Joe, a ship of wood and rope and tar to bring our settlers from afar.
Please move the show along in time. Let's hope you can sustain the ride.
With more settlers, some were pressed into moving south and moving west. The land provided all their needs, from food to clothes to Indian beads.
I think we understand his haste, but that sequence was not in the best of taste.
Yes. Well, moving along, we must make clear that most took up farming as a career. After all, other jobs were rare, like skinning rabbits and shooting bear.
That's B-E-A-R. Let's not blow smoke with that type of crude, unbearable joke.
The farms provided for most needs except for sugar, salt, and seeds. And when the times were less than good, they still had food and clothes and wood. The earth produced what they required, and very few folks then were retired. The old, the halt, did what they could to help to provide their livelihood.
All right, we understand the land propriety. But then, what happened to society?
Industry. Industry changed the status quo, which we'll illustrate with Jack and Joe. Now, those who worked depended not on land, but on machines, which appeared on every hand. For most, this meant a new prosperity, though there were some who needed charity. Withal, for most, the times were prosperous, until the day they crossed the Bosporus.
Withal, and crossed the Bosporus, we find your rhymes now are preposterous.
That was merely a figure of speech, and your gracious pardon we do beseech. We were searching for an expression to symbolize the Great Depression. No jobs, no work, no pay, no pride. People felt helpless deep inside. For those who had always earned their way, it was hard to accept no work, no pay.
The crisis stirred the better nature of those who served in our legislature.
Right. And in 1935, the Congress did enact a law that would have a strong impact on unemployment and retirement, too, and change our social point of view.
They did indeed, and that's a fact. It's known as the Social Security Act.
From that early start to our present maturity, nearly every family has a stake in Social Security. At this period of time, we can reflect on the nearly 1 out of 7 with a monthly check.
And added to that astute reflection are the 9 out of 10 earning protection.
Well, after the law, it took some doing to start things up and get them stewing, and changes in the law were made before the first monthly checks could be paid.
At first, only the worker who retired was covered by the Social Security part. In order not to mix it up, let's put the horse before the cart.
They added a worker's dependents when he retired, or his survivors if he expired. All of this before the first monthly check was mailed out. which was in 1940, or somewhere thereabout.
Thereabout? Now that's a shifty act. It was in 1940, and that's a published fact. There's something else that we've noticed. You call the worker he, when a large part of the worker population qualifies as she.
Now, that is most embarrassing, I really do declare. It's probably a bad habit that I should now repair. Perhaps if we were to remember to be absolutely fair, we should add another helper to our initial pair. So to the cast we've grown to love and know as Jack and Joe, we'll add a new third party whose name is Mary Flo. Under Social Security, women who work earn credit for when they retire, and their dependents are protected if they expire. Also, the working woman's protection now applies to her dependent husband or her dependent widower if she dies. We hope that that will erase the frown of those who objected to the he pronoun. From here on out, it's an equal go for Joe and Jack and Mary Flo. Perhaps in passing we should say that coverage was extended along the way. Now most self-employed people have the satisfaction of being included in the Social Security action. So now most jobs are covered, you may have detected, and almost all workers are protected.
How about 9 out of 10? We said it before, but if necessary, we'll say it once more.
You just did. But now, a must. We should explain the Social Security Trust. The share of contributions are paid half and half by the employer and his working staff.
For most of us, there's some confusion. The funds are earmarked. Is that a delusion?
Most of the yearly collection, it is true, pay the benefits that are due. But an annual surplus of some millions has accumulated to a number of billions.
That's what we've heard some people say will be all used up some future day.
Well, this sum was meant to be a source of strength in an emergency. When unemployment cuts income back, a part of those funds keep things on the track.
Then, when prosperity comes again, as it ought, the surplus again goes back in the pot?
I think that's a fair expression of how these funds help fight recession, and also proves how they are able to keep the Social Security program stable.
Let's move along and be correct in telling what one can expect.
Perhaps by showing every part of the Social Security program in graphic art, we can clarify, I have no fear, the things that happened year by year. From the very beginning, all could see the need for confidentiality. So the privacy of all records was made a fact by the very first regulation under the Social Security Act. The records established in your account, it's true, are private matters between Social Security and you. We said before that 1940 was the start for the retirement and survivors part. In 1956, protection against total disability became a fact when incorporated into the Social Security Act. Social Security expanded for fair in 1965 with Medicare.
Programs have been added. That's not strange. And those that we had have been subject to change.
Amendments were added as Congress saw fit. And one that came in '65 was the student's benefit. There were checks to dependents of those who retired and those who were disabled and those who expired. But an important fact that you have not yet seen is that usually children's benefits end at age 18. However, an unmarried child disabled before 22 can get benefits for life. His parent can too. While disability lasts, the checks will come through. But back to student benefits and to the legal rule. The students we are speaking of must spend full time in school. If they remain unmarried, and this course they pursue, their checks will still continue to the age of 22.
Now we think you had best add a little detail to each of the programs and what they entail.
Then back to the first and foremost requirement, where we spoke of the monthly checks for retirement. The usual retirement is at age 65, and claimants retiring should be alive. Wait, that's just a jest, although we admit it's not one of our best.
It may not be the best you've jested, but we agree that your wit needs rested.
Now, though most retire at age 65, it's true, with a smaller check, they can retire at age 62. They can if they wish, and what is more, they can also do it at 63 or 4.
I think one of your helpers has just lost his fire. Perhaps it's time for him to up and retire.
Your Social Security number is very important to you. It's used to keep earnings records straight and pay your benefits, too. During your lifetime, you may change your name, but your Social Security number always remains the same. Whenever you start a new job, the first thing you should do is be certain your employer has the correct number given to you. The monthly cash benefits each worker clears is based on his average earnings over the years. The retiree can earn some extra money, too, although there's a limit on the amount until age 72.
That's good, but the retiree may feel some frustration when his buying power is reduced by inflation.
Law now provides an increased benefit range when, due to inflation, most prices change.
Do you think with your newfound wordy facility, you could tell us what you mean by disability?
We mean a disability severe and long-term, or to make it stronger, if the disabled are not expected to work for a year or longer. And in disability cases, it should also be stated, we try to see that they are rehabilitated.
We need some information, to be fair, about the part called Medicare.
To explain the program we call Medicare, we should say it's in two parts, which may come as a pair. In explaining those parts, we'll give the first try to the part that is initially known as HI. Wait a minute, you've got it wrong, Joe. The initials HI do not mean hello.
In taking such shortcuts, you test our endurance. What HI really means is hospital insurance.
There are three types of care the HI part includes whenever illness or injury intrudes. This triumvirate of services is on our displays: inpatient hospital and skilled nursing home stays. And for those who can get their treatment outside, home health services in the place they reside.
Your way with words is no great threat to art. Let's see how you handle Medicare's other part.
You're speaking of the part called medical insurance, which pays doctors and other medical bills with assurance that the bill for the area is not too large and is really what's known as a reasonable charge. For this part, there's a monthly premium charge, but the government shares, so your payment's not large. After a deductible, the patient must pay. Medicare's protection can come into play. Medical insurance then pays 80% of the reasonable charges for the bills that are sent.
All right. You now qualify as our resident sage. Who gets Medicare, and at what age?
Let's understand that things do change. Initially, age 65 and over was the range, but Medicare protection, since 1973, has been extended to some beneficiaries on disability. However, there's a rule that these younger persons must be, at least for 24 consecutive months, on disability. The third group are almost all people under age 65 with permanent kidney failure who need dialysis or a transplant to stay alive.
It seems to me that you should try to include the program called SSI.
Well, we'll make a stab and do our best to include SSI with all the rest. It's somewhat different, not as well known as the other programs we have shown. Supplemental security income, you will find, is for the aged, disabled, and blind whose resources a minimum does not exceed. That is, they're in real financial need. To provide a floor of income is the SSI thrust, but the funds don't come from the Social Security Trust.
We've appreciated your verse and the accompanying mummery. But now we think we'd better close after a short summary.
Yes, our time is almost up. We may be overdue, so we'd better quickly show Social Security in review. Let's recreate our big display, but do it fast without delay. How do you get service? It's an easy thing to do. Just visit the Social Security office or phone the one near you.
And now, in closing, our final words we append. We're reluctant to say it, but this is